Pete Crow-Armstrong made history for the Cubs in another big game for Hollywood Pete. We're going to get into why he's so important to this team and also what deals could be made to help this Cubs club as they get set to take on the Mariners tonight with a 5.5 game lead in the division. Also, what do you think is the most important thing that the Cubs need to do to get to September with momentum? All that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thanks for hanging, guys, and let's get this party started. Go Cubs. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie, Cubs Baseball channel. And no matter where I'm at, I try to get with you guys and talk about our Cubs after an 8-7 loss to Milwaukee yesterday. You can find me on the socials at Broadcaster Mick. I'm Mick Gillespie again. Thank you for being here. First off, Hollywood Pete Crow-Armstrong, the fourth fastest player to get to 2020 and the fastest Cub of all time to get to 2020. 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. Who saw this power coming from Pete Crow-Armstrong? I mean, I knew he could do it. We talked about it back in his first season in 2023. But, I mean, this guy is putting up a MVP type of campaign. And the home run that he hit for the Cubs, I mean, the ball jumps off of his bat. And he's the franchise leader to ever get 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases. That blend of speed and power together, and to do it this quickly, right? 73 games and the 2020 mark, which is absolutely phenomenal. He beats out Sammy Sosa, who was the franchise leader, and that was in 1994, and it took him 96 games to get there, right? So, I mean, think about this. 74th game, Pete Crow-Armstrong doing things that we haven't really seen done. And the crazy thing is that when you look at it over the course of history, I mean, he's up there with some of the best power and speed guys of all time, which is pretty phenomenal, right? And it's really kind of refreshing to watch the excitement and the energy that he plays with. But at the same time, like him having power results, right? He's one RBI behind Seiya Suzuki for the team lead with 61, right? Can you imagine? This kid has 60 runs batted in. He's batting around 270, and he's got 20 home runs and, 23 stolen bases. He plays amazing defense. You can't argue with that. And when you look around and you start to talk about what he brings to the table, he's been really the spark that the Cubs have needed this year as far as winning games and being successful. Just 73 games, 2020, it wasn't enough against Milwaukee. Obviously, they got a big lead, but the Cubs came back, and you guys got to give them credit for never giving up. Like, this team fights their butts off to get back in games that they don't even belong in. Like, who would have thought that the Cubs would have been in this game when, they were down big? It was like 8-3. You're going, well, and then all of a sudden here they come roaring back. So Jameson Taillon, not a great game. He's due a bad game every once in a while. Obviously the Cubs bats, they're averaging the second most runs in the National League per game behind the Dodgers, over 5, but just not enough juice to beat Milwaukee again. But they made it close. So they're a tough team. So now the question that a lot of people have is, who are the Cubs prospects that are on the trade block? Who are the Cubs going to deal to try and add to the payroll now, or to the roster? Now, one thing I wanted to say was about the payroll. The fact that the Cubs cut payroll last year could help them at the deadline this year. And you wonder if it's going to help them try to sign Kyle Tucker at the end of the year as well. And if I was them, if I was ownership, I'd certainly do all I could to bring him back, just because not only is he a great player, but you gave up a ton to get him. And we've got into that over and over again. But when you make trades, you're picking up payroll. Cubs have leverage in that area to pick up payroll, right? The other thing is when you look at where this team sits and you look at the National League, they have a really legitimate chance to contend for a World Series, but they need some major pieces. And I say major pieces like I think they need a starting pitcher that is going to be slotted somewhere at the top of the rotation, not just a piece, but an ace. And some of you guys, and I did the show yesterday where you're hearing Austin Riley could be up for grabs, the Braves third baseman. Cubs could definitely use someone in that spot, and not just because you don't like Matt Shaw, but what I think it would do is if you got someone that could come in like a Riley, then you could use Shaw as your utility guy. And some of you guys kind of pointed that out to me, and you're exactly right. You're not getting anything from the utility guys that you have. Brujan and Birdie, right? Shaw would be a really good utility guy. He can play the middle infield. I don't know how I saw him play in outfield in spring training. I don't know if he could do that in a big league game and you'd be comfortable with it, but maybe. Most of the times those guys that play shortstop can do a lot of different things. But not only would it strengthen your, by having someone, if you went out and got an Austin Riley, that could be a difference maker in that spot. It also puts Shaw in a position where you could use him as a guy that roves. Hey, I could play him at second. I could give Nico off. I could play him at short. I give Dansby off. I can play him at third. Whoever you got there. You could use him at DH. You could swing him around the diamond. And he's a better offensive utility guy. Even though we haven't seen the best of his offense yet, the bottom line is that the guy does do a lot with the bat, and he's still trying to figure it out. But even as he does that, I think he's still a better hitter than Birdie and Brujan. Who would the Cubs, though, give up in these deals? Jim Bowden of the MLB radio station on XM and The Athletic mentioned some names. I like to throw these out here. He talked about the Cubs getting rid of Cade Horton in a trade. I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, unless I don't know a deal where you give up Cade Horton. Honestly, I just don't. Maybe I just don't. I sit here and say, well, maybe if you do this, I don't know. If you're the Cubs, you would have to be fools to get rid of him. Owen Casey. I love Owen Casey. You guys know I love Owen Casey. He's going to go to a team. They're going to put him in the outfield and leave him alone there. And he's going to be a really, really, really good big leaguer, and I think for a long time. Kevin Alcantara, I've been fine with him. I don't know much about Ronnie Cruz, the number 13 prospect. He's the other guy that the Cubs are talking about, or at least Bowden was talking about getting rid of in a trade. I think Moises Ballesteros is someone that they would be willing to give up. I know he's put up monster numbers in AAA. He's, someone that can hit. He's a great hitter, natural hitter, soft hands, puts the ball in play, does a lot with the bat. The problem with him is finding a position for him. And if with Suzuki as your DH, there's really not a position for him where you're going, well, you know what, I feel pretty comfortable about putting him in this particular spot, right? So maybe you get rid of him, and I'm sure there's some other guys. I talked about Jackson Wiggins. He's starting to turn a lot of heads now in AA. I don't know how long he's going to be in AA. He looks to me like back-end bullpen closer type guy. But, right now he's a starter. Maybe he's a guy that you throw into a package. You'd hate to give him up because he's going to be a really good pitcher somewhere. But if you get the right thing in return, if you want to go out and get someone's ace, they're going to ask for pitching back in return. I mention that every time we talk about it. So maybe Wiggins is the guy that they get back in return, Wiggins and Ballesteros. And, you bring in Chris Sale and you're going, well, you know what? I hate to give those two guys up, but, we're getting Chris Sale. We're getting someone for the top of the rotation. It's the same thing with Zach Gallen. If you get Zach Gallen back, you're going to have to give up something to get him, but he's a guy that you put right at the top of your rotation, right? And there's about 5 or 6 guys we've kind of rotated on, but for the Cubs to get those guys, they're going to have to give up something. Haven't heard a lot about James Triantos, Maybe the reason why is he hasn't had a great year, but he's one of their top prospects as well. You might be willing to give him up. And you look down the list, and there's talent. But the Owen Casey and the Cade Horton are the two guys of that prospect list that I would really shy away from. And I don't think they're going to give up Horton. I mean, he's in the big leagues now. You're starting to see what he's capable of. And the last thing you want to do is turn around and be the Mets. When the Cubs made the trade to get Pete Crow-Armstrong for Javi Baez, Mets fans went ballistic. They went absolutely ballistic because they were going, what are you doing? Because they knew. And now we're seeing this guy emerge as one of baseball's hottest players. With that said, the Cubs don't want to be that same team, and Owen Casey's a player that could put them in that spot because he's a guy that can put up monster numbers, and I think he's going to be pretty consistent for a long time. But if you sign Kyle Tucker, there might not be a spot for him, and maybe that's why you make a deal. But he's 22 years old. He's got a lot of power, and I keep telling you guys, he's someone that I think is definitely worth finding a place for if you don't get an absolute blockbuster back for him. Cubs are hosting Seattle. Nothing better than a day game at Wrigley on a Friday. Matthew Boyd on the mound for the Cubs. George Kirby for the Mariners. That weird Cubs-Mariners matchup that we got today at Wrigley. Now, the last question, and I said this, what do you think it would take to add to this team for the Cubs to win a World Series? What's the thing that you think that the Cubs need to win it all? And to me, I think the one thing that the Cubs could use to get them over the hump is an ace pitcher. I think if you added an ace pitcher, a Chris Sale type of guy, to the Cubs, Merrill Kelly, maybe. I don't know about Andrew Haney. I mean, he's good, but I think a Chris Sale type guy, he'd be my first choice. And then second choice would probably be Merrill Kelly. Zach Gallen could be really good too. Don't give me Sandy Alcantara and then expect him to come in and make a difference when he hasn't done that yet. But I would say you get somebody at the top of that rotation, push everyone back. That's the thing to me that will help this team win. And I think that they're right on the cusp. The Dodgers are going to be tough to beat. The Giants are going to be tough to beat. The National League's stacked. But the Cubs have a way of scoring runs. And what I love is that it's not just home runs that are allowing them to get across the plate. They figure out other ways to do it. All right, guys, thanks for hanging. As always, appreciate you here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. I ask you to do that all the time. Share with your friends. You're not Cardinals. You totally get it. I love when I'm around people and we get together and we talk about Cubs baseball wherever I'm at because there's Cubs fans all over the place. And the reason why is WGN and Harry and Steve. I'd be honest with you. Like, everybody I talk to, I watch WGN, Harry and Steve. Like, that's what's cool about the Cubs. We are everywhere. So tell me what you think. What would it take if the Cubs make this big blockbuster trade to get this team to the top? What do you think it would look like? Thank you. Go Cubs.